Hi, I'm Jez, this is Chasing Cars, and welcome to our ultimate new car mega test, 2025 Car of the Year. And for our latest mammoth testing extravaganza, we've again gathered a wonderfully eclectic field of vehicles. We've got posh four-wheel drives, electric people movers, budget price city cars, Euro Lux sedans and SUVs, legendary sports cars, and even Australia's first ever plug-in hybrid ute. Let's get into it. Chasing Cars, honest reviews of your next car.
Brought to you by
While the majority of our field comprises vehicles that have impressed us the most since our last Car of the Year, we've also got a bunch of fascinating wildcards. These are vehicles that we've either driven only briefly or not at all because they're so new they haven't even launched officially in Australia at the time of testing. These fresh out of the box vehicles include the Ford Tourneo people mover, the Zeekr 009 people mover, the Mini Aceman compact crossover, and even the first Cadillac to be officially sold in Australia, the Lyriq electric SUV.
The Chasing Cars test team comprises some familiar faces, some relative newcomers, some old hands, and returnees. It makes the Chasing Cars team perhaps the most seasoned and experienced Australian media outlet with Australia's most independent car reviews powered by Budget Direct. We had a simple mission here: combine more than 12 months of extensive reviews and comparisons with the addition of a week's intensive testing to determine our top 10 best new cars and crown our ultimate Chasing Cars 2025 Car of the Year. And in order of excellence, here they are.
If you thought a Mini needed to be a Mini, then you better brace yourself for the third generation Mini Countryman, because it's a great big cracker. Based on the same platform as the BMW X1 and X2, the new Countryman has loosened its belt and grown upwards and outwards, finally achieving the practicality and presence expected of a premium small SUV. But arguably best of all, it presents itself in a multitude of flavours. There's the traditional turbo petrol versions with 3 or 4 cylinders, front or all-wheel drive, or you can get the new Countryman as an electric vehicle, and it's this one, particularly this range-topping SE All-4, that has metaphorically shocked and surprised us all. Yet this is ultimately a tale of two halves here at Car of the Year: the dual electric motor Countryman SE and the all-wheel drive Countryman JCW. Both of them have more than 230 kilowatts, and both of them are genuinely rapid, but only one of them is truly involving to drive. And it's the EV. To achieve similar driving pleasure in a Countryman petrol, you're better off spending less than this to get more. But the thing is, you have that wealth of choice in the new Mini Countryman.
taking out the overall title in our recent EV mega test gave the Tesla Model 3 a good shot at performing well at this year's Car of the Year testing. And perform well it has. But Car of the Year is all about new models. Isn't the Model 3 just a facelift? Well, no, not really. And that's because how cars are being updated is starting to change fast, and Tesla is leading the way. Even though the cosmetic changes are relatively subtle, it's what Tesla has done under the skin of the Model 3 that really counts. Right down to changing how the body in white is produced to partially using gigacasting, just like the Model Y. And that of course changes how this vehicle drives and is put together. But more important than how this vehicle comes into being is the response that Tesla has generated to feedback from customers and media about this vehicle. And to see what I'm talking about, we'll need to head inside. Just like the outside, the interior of the upgraded Model 3 looks similar to before, but that would be to ignore the big changes under the skin. Things like tightening the panel gaps on the Model 3 means that less road noise is emitted into the cabin on coarse chip roads, and the rattles, creaks, and squeaks that permeated the original Model 3 have been significantly reduced by changing many of the components in this cabin over time. There's also the addition of niceties like cooled seats, always appreciated in a hot country like Australia, while fundamental changes to the suspension hardware means that the original car's excellent composure has been maintained, but the Model 3 now has a welcome degree of suppleness and plushness while traversing bumps. That's a huge improvement for driving this car every day. However, it isn't perfect. The traction and stability control are some of the most conservative in the industry, which means the excellent chassis of the Model 3 doesn't have much of a chance to shine through in the hands of a keen driver on a great Australian country road. Plus, many buyers have reported frustration in the removal of the indicator stalk and placement of buttons on the steering wheel, noticeably a move Tesla chose to ditch for the upcoming facelifted Model Y.
A Kia costing more than $100,000? Has the world gone completely mad? Well, not entirely. It's gone electric, and few brands have pushed the boundaries of what's possible in an EV like Kia. Once you begin to take in what the Kia EV9 brings to the table, you start to understand why it commands such a considerable amount when you head to the checkout. For its 6-figure sticker, you get 800-volt architecture for rapid charging times, a big battery for a decent amount of range, and sophisticated underpinnings for a physics-defying driving experience. It's the way the EV9 goes about its business that cements this large, futuristic 7-seat SUV as one of the greats. Its exterior design pushes boundaries like few other large SUVs, while its huge interior combines comfort and space with interesting textures and fantastic vision. Whether you're driving the EV9 or being driven in one, it brings a sense of majesty and grandeur to the experience that few mainstream SUVs can achieve. And that's a rare quality that transcends class divides and brand snobbery. This might be a large Korean SUV wearing a refreshed Kia logo, but anyone who dismisses the EV9 for those reasons is simply demonstrating their ignorance. This is an international design, developed by design teams and engineers that span the globe, that sets a benchmark for others to follow for half the price of its Mercedes-Benz equivalent.
We've seen mixed results from cars built on the Volkswagen Group's MEB electric car architecture, yet this Enyaq here is yet another example of how Czech brand Skoda has managed to somehow upstage stablemates from its parent company. The Skoda Enyaq has indeed proven to be one of our big surprises of 2025. The cabin feels solidly built, and it also has a level of quality and presentation that we think is a level above that of cabins found in the Volkswagen ID.4, for example, and perhaps more surprisingly, the Audi Q4. Less surprising is that this is another Skoda absolutely brimming with thoughtfulness, clever touches on the interior. So for example, the center console bin, open it up, not just a top level removable tray, but also another tub lower down. Absolutely love that. The door bins, not only a good size, but Skoda's designers have been very clever here with the armrest and window switch controls here. They've deliberately cut it short just here so you can actually slide in a larger bottle into the door bins. The front seats are terrific, really comfortable, but Skoda hasn't ignored rear passengers, apart from the fact that you get some very good knee space here, plenty of headroom, lots of light from this glass panoramic sunroof, and there is an optional accessory blind for that, by the way. But I love what they've done with the rear seats. They are scalloped and they're also angled upwards here, and that makes the support absolutely brilliant. Then there's the boot that caters ingeniously to everyday family life. For example, you've got these pull-down grocery bag holders, luggage net if you need it, there's some cargo dividers, there's a ski port, useful underfloor storage, and generally the boot is a good size. And even on this base model, we've got some release levers here for the seat backs, for even extra cargo space. There's also a sportier RS version with dual motors and all-wheel drive, but we think this rear drive single motor Sportline version is a bit of a sweet spot in the range. There's a good level of performance, well-judged ride, and there's even a generous WLTP range of 561 kilometres.
Who said that a car of the year high achiever needs to be sensible and pragmatic? The 7th generation Ford Mustang comes rumbling ferociously into the Chasing Cars top 10, and probably for no better reasons than this: V8, manual, and rear-wheel drive. Ford could have shoehorned a turbocharged V6 under the bonnet and relented to the gods of progress, but instead the Mustang flagship sticks faithfully to an authentic, naturally aspirated V8 for the many petrol heads who still want it. And that's more than 90% of Australian Mustang buyers. The performance-honed Dark Horse was an instant sellout, but some argue that the regular GT is more classically handsome, a superb evolution of the breed that extends does that praise under the skin. Mustang dynamics have never been more focused, finessed and rewarding, to the point where this sophisticated beast drives like a German engineered version of an American muscle car. It's easier to commute in, easier to cruise in, and easier to live with. The Mustang GT thumbs political correctness to become perhaps the very last old school muscle car. But none of this dilutes the pulse racing connection, the feel-good vibes, or the thundering V8 soundtrack that gives your heartstrings a good yank, whether you're driving fast or slow. Sure, the Mustang is big on thirst and low on practicality, but there is so much to love here. As an antidote to motoring mediocrity and uniformity, the V8 Mustang is a hell of a tough act to top at any price.
What is every Uber driver's favourite car doing in our Chasing Cars top 10 best cars? Well, it's not that the Camry has suddenly become an exciting, thrilling, inspiring car, but what this 9th generation Camry has become is the most complete package that Toyota's long-serving mid-size sedan has ever been. Prices may have increased for the Camry, but we think even in this flagship SL spec that it represents excellent value for money. This SL model costs less than $60,000 drive away, yet it's absolutely stacked with standard equipment. For example, we've got an electric dual pane sunroof, we've got partial leather seats, we've got a heated steering wheel, ventilated and heated front seats, electrically adjustable front seats, and we've even got a JBL 9-speaker audio. The driving experience makes this car though. So Toyota's hybrid system, it's not the most advanced in the world, but it is highly effective. It delivers ample performance, certainly for your typical Camry driver, but more importantly, it limits stops at the Bowser with highly impressive fuel efficiency. We're seeing 5.1 litres per 100 kilometres during our testing this week, but we've seen as low as 3.8, and that is pretty amazing. But what is also, if not amazing, certainly surprising in a good way, are the 9th generation Camry's dynamics. They're almost a revelation, really. This is a car that doesn't mind being tipped into the corners and delivering a little bit of fun and entertainment for the driver. But of course, much more important for your typical Camry driver is the comfort that this car delivers. And the seats are cosseting, really comfortable. The ride quality is beautifully judged, and just the general all-round refinement of this car is hugely impressive. In fact, the biggest compliment we could give this Camry is that if it wore a Lexus badge, we wouldn't look twice. When car makers almost en masse declared that the end was nigh for combustion engines as the world made its initial rapid shift to electric vehicles, petrol heads understandably had a bit of a panic. But then along comes this, out of the performance blue, the N version of the retro-futuristic Hyundai Ioniq 5, a fully electric car that proves that it can provide entertainment for keen drivers. It's quite obvious that the mastermind behind the 5N was the same person who spearheaded the development of the i30N hot hatch, Albert Biermann, a bona fide petrol head. The development team have had a lot of fun with this electric car. There's a lot of customization settings which could be a little bit daunting, but importantly there are lots of shortcuts via the very business-like steering wheel, color-coded for drive mode button, NGB, we'll come to that a little bit later. 2 N buttons. Now, for the N button on the left, that changes the paddle shift levers from controlling the regen braking to becoming artificial gear shift selectors. Yes, gear shift selectors for an electric vehicle. Don't believe me? So let's listen to this. We'll change it here. The raughty engine note of the 2-litre turbo petrol that does not exist under the bonnet of the 5N, of course. In third gear, brake, a blip of the throttle. The software is just so clever in this car. And we've driven the 5N a lot now, and that mimicry of the i30N's powertrain does not feel like a gimmick. It really adds to the flavour and the experience of driving the 5N. It helps you judge your speed into corners. Now, if we press that NGB mode that I was talking about, that gives us the full 478 kilowatts, 770 newton meters. Oh my word, this thing absolutely pins you into the back of your seat. It is ridiculously quick. 3.4 seconds 0 to 100. That is an acceleration time that rivals a Porsche Taycan GTS almost, about a tenth off. But that car costs more than double this Ioniq 5N. But you just also wouldn't believe this car weighs 2.2 tons. It's absolutely chuckable. The amount of grip from the 275mm wide Pirelli P0 tyres is absolutely tremendous. Oh, I absolutely love this car. Overall, it's not an overstatement to say that the Hyundai Ioniq 5N is a game-changing electric car.
Very few of the expensive cars that we tested this year felt that they were worth the price the manufacturer was trying to demand from Australians, and the feeling of value was particularly fleeting if that car was both expensive and fully electric. But as they say, exceptions break the rule, and this Polestar 3 is the very definition of exceptional. It is the best Polestar yet by a wide margin, and possibly the best Volvo-derived product ever when it comes to driving dynamics and completeness. The Polestar 3 shows that this Chinese-Swedish brand's claim to want to compete with the likes of Porsche on driving dynamics is absolutely no joke. Proving that value for money is always relative, for the amount of cash that Porsche is intending to levy on Australians to purchase a lightly optioned single-motor Macan EV, you could instead have our lushly specified dual-motor Polestar 3 with firm yet supple adaptive air suspension and a transformative Ford Focus RS style twin-clutch rear differential that lets you have big slidey laughs if that's what you want, or just amazing handling precision underneath your right foot. The way this car dances for a 2,600 kilogram crossover is nothing short of staggering. It's more Audi RS6 style sport wagon than it is four-wheel drive. Then there's the accommodation, a beautiful mix of real wood, leather and metal, great Volvo sourced seats providing terrific comfort, all of which leaves you with an impression that while it's 150 grand and that's a lot of money, this is a rare instance of getting value for a spend like that. You can summarize the Polestar 3 very simply. Here's a car that fully delivers on the promise of luxury motoring. It just happens to be electric. Well, it turns out there is another car on this test that fully delivers on the promise of luxury motoring, and that just happens to be electric. The difference is this sedan achieves even more highly because it has a massive ace up its sleeve, because it gives you choice. Would you instead choose petrol? Would you instead choose diesel? Would you instead choose a fully electric sport wagon? And what if you could still have a screaming V8? I think you might have guessed the car that I'm talking about. It's the phenomenal G60 and G90 BMW 5 Series and M5. The haters have misread this car, though you can understand. You'd think the new 5 Series would be hopelessly compromised. And yet, somehow, BMW's A-team have done it all again. Well, the styling won't be for everybody, but peel back the cosmetic layers of the G60 and the G90, and the impression that you'll be left with is one of depth of engineering to a significant degree, and also the sparkling driving dynamics of the entire range. There's also the fact that BMW has been proved right about the EV transition in 2025. No big claims of rushing everyone to full EV, just making great cars and letting the buyer choose the powertrain, whether that's petrol, diesel, hybrid, or fully electric. A BMW should still drive like a BMW, no matter the powertrain. And that's why one of the biggest surprises of this test was discovering that the single-motor rear-wheel drive i5 still drives like a classic BMW sports sedan. It delivers incredibly dignified, incredibly supple ride quality when you're just cruising, even on 21s, but then there's also great steering and progressive oversteer on tap. It's fun. Well, it turns out that adding a little bit of electricity really enhances the full combustion effect in the new M5. I think it's fair to say that BMW's brightest engineers probably didn't want to have to do a hybrid M5, but they definitely didn't want to do an AMG and do a hybrid while also dropping cylinders on one of their most important badges. So call it future-proofing the M5's V8 for European laws, at least for a little bit longer. The result, probably the sweetest lemonade ever squeezed from the EU's regulatory lemon. The M5 is staggering. Whoa! Staggering in terms of its straight line pace and also how its handling absolutely sparkles. I challenge anybody not to have a grin on their face driving the M5 at full chat.
Even as you approach it, the latest generation Hyundai Santa Fe looks like something out of the norm. Yet it's got nothing to do with these striking aesthetics, why this family SUV is the clear standout in our vast field of strong contenders to be crowned not only our #1 best new car, but officially our 2025 Chasing Cars Car of the Year. This 7-seater family SUV is not only available in an assortment of colours, but it's also offered in a variety of trim grades and powertrains to suit different tastes and different budgets. And despite such an expansive lineup, the Hyundai Santa Fe is one of those rare vehicles that doesn't have a weak link in the range.
Behind a standard power tailgate, every Santa Fe is a 7-seater. Doesn't matter whether it's a hybrid, turbo petrol, front drive, or all-wheel drive. And while Hyundai will gladly sell you an expensive version of the Santa Fe, it was this base model that really astonished the judges in testing. Because first of all, well, it doesn't really look like a base model, does it? And it's not equipped like one, despite substantially undercutting rivals like the Toyota Kluger and the Kia Sorento Hybrid 2. On 20-inch wheels with this admittedly Minecraft styling, loads of LED lighting, this is a family SUV that you'd be proud to have in your garage or on your driveway. Plus, there's the fact that each grade can be had as a hybrid or a turbo petrol, and it starts at 58,000 drive away for petrol, 60 grand drive away for hybrid. Then there's the interior. The only way you'll easily identify the base model in its cabin is its cloth seating, but even that is elevated with a tartan plaid-like finish that looks cool, while the driver still enjoys features like power adjustment and electric lumbar as standard, a leather steering wheel, dual 12-inch screens with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, smartphone connectivity, remote start, over-the-air updating, dual zone climate control. The list of features in this affordable base grade is simply astonishing. Of course, you can go to a more premium variant if you want creature comforts like seat cooling, leather, or a sunroof, but the value for money, even at the entry point of the Santa Fe lineup, is extremely creditable.
Continuing the theme of the deeper that you look, the more that you find in the Santa Fe is the interior of this particular calligraphy spec here. While the outside really does push boundaries, so does the inside in terms of colour. This top spec car is not just differentiated by having leather and a panoramic roof, it comes in colours and is brave enough to do it. So here we have earthy bronze matte on the outside and this amazing forest green interior that is absolutely 1970s olive. The combination of green on the outside of the steering wheel, creamy white on the inside, this sort of albino wood all through the interior, and everything else pretty much being olive green other than the fluffy white ceiling is just like a 1970s Italian supercar. The only thing it's missing is having mustard carpet on the floor. So it actually is a little bit more tasteful than that. And you can get it in pecan brown as well. Not only that, you can choose a 6-seat option. And in this calligraphy here, with the 6 seats in the back, you have full electric adjustment, fold down armrests to give a $150,000 SUV feel in this $75,000 Hyundai.
A new engine for this Santa Fe generation is a 2.5 litre 4-cylinder turbo taken from the Sonata sedan, and it's so much better than the 3.5 litre V6 that it essentially replaces from the previous generation. It's more refined, it's more efficient, and it's even kind of entertaining, quite sporty. I'm going to put my foot down. Sounds good. That 0 to 100 is a very respectable 8 seconds. But of course, this car's not really about performance. It's got a heap more torque in the mid-range than the V6, so very drivable. It's unobtrusive, even on the freeway at higher speeds. Official fuel consumption, it's 9.3 litres per 100 kilometres. So, as we said, better than the old V6. And we've managed to get on the freeway drive that we've had about 8.8. So that's pretty good. Now, of course, if fuel consumption is your be-all and end-all for driving, you want to save money at the Bowser, then there is the hybrid drivetrain that teams a 1.6 litre turbo with an electric motor. Official consumption 5.6 litres per 100, and our experience with a Santa Fe hybrid before is getting into sort of high 6s. And for a large 7-seater family SUV, that is pretty amazing. The hybrid drivetrain isn't as quick as the 2.5 turbo point-to-point. The turbo petrol is our favourite of the two drivetrains, but the hybrid is smooth and effortless around town. And the Santa Fe, it just wafts along country roads and freeways, and that's exactly what you want from the driving experience for a family SUV. And it doesn't come at the expense of dynamics. It handles very nicely on country roads, the steering, it's smooth, linear, well weighted. It's a very, very good SUV. The previous Santa Fe was a good car, but it was also a bit of an unforgettable SUV that blended into the pack. We're absolutely convinced this will never happen with this new generation model. Polarizing looks, maybe, but what isn't debatable is that Hyundai's new 7-seater family SUV is so good in virtually every key area you can name that our 2025 Chasing Cars Car of the Year is almost faultless. For all our extensive Car of the Year coverage, head to our website chasingcars.com.au, and if you enjoyed this video, hit subscribe, tell us what you think in the comments below, and as ever, thank you for watching Chasing Cars.